Simpson remote. We have District 3 Mayrani Velasquez in chambers. We have District 4 Charles Whitaker in chambers, and we'll have District 5 Tim Royce join us shortly. If you would, Grady, could you lead us in prayer, please?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Before we start, would you please turn off all your devices or put them on silent?
Okay, then you Father God, we come, give you honor and thanks. We thank you for your guidance, your protection, your direction. We ask and pray that you will continue to guide us and lead us, that you will make the right decisions moving forward for this city of Terrell. Bless this city, guide and keep our mayor, our council, our God for this great state, and our president. All in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Our next item on the agenda is to hear remarks from visitors. I don't believe we have any. If there's no objection, the mayor would like to suspend the rules and change the order of which we're going to do business tonight. Is there any objection? Hearing none, we'll do so. We're going to start with item number 5.7, discuss housing department federal planning requirements. That's going to be Jay Ayers. Would you please come forward?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I guess first I'm going to give you a little backdrop on the 5-year annual plan, what it all entails, and the purpose of it. Go to the PowerPoint slide.
Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
I have to share my screen.
With the 5-year annual plan, you go to the next slide.
I can't.
Oh, you can't?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's just I'm having trouble with
Okay.
this right now.
So, Council, if we'll start with page 70 of 83 on the U.S. Housing and Urban Development, and just kind of follow through with him, please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
On page 2, it is, start off, what is the annual, the PHA plan? The PHA plan is pretty much a comprehensive guide to public housing agency, Terrell Housing Department, policies, programs, operations, and strategies for meeting local housing needs and goals. There are 2 parts of the PHA plan. We have the 5-year plan, and which we submit to HUD every 5th PH fiscal year, and then you have the annual plan. Now, the annual plan does not apply to us because we're a high-performing agency. Once you're not considered high-performing, that's when you go to the annual plan. So we're a high-performing agency, which is great. And the annual plan is submitted every year. If you go to the next slide, the question is, who has to submit the 5-year annual plan? Any local, regional, or state agency that receives funds to operate federal public housing, or any local, regional, or state agency that receives funds to operate Section 8 tenant-based voucher program, and that's us, the second option there. What is the purpose of the 5-year annual plan? It describes the mission of our agency. It describes an agency's approach to managing programs. It describes long-range goals and objectives for achieving the mission over a 5-year period. It describes an agency's approach to providing services for the upcoming year. It executes Congress's goal of ensuring that
Maybe the one on your side is
Yeah,
working.
it's not working.
Now try it. There you
Yeah, it's not working.
go. Okay, I'll just go to the next one.
Okay, it executes Congress's goal of ensuring that PHAs are accountable to the local community and addressing the needs of low-income families. It ensures public participation in development of the 5-year plan and serves as a strategic planning tool and determines the role of the PHA in the community. Now, we're going to talk about the process. The first thing we have to do, we have to download materials from HUD's website in regards to the 5-year annual plan. We gather information just from running the program, and we establish a resident advisory board. The resident advisory board, there's 3 criteria for someone to actually be on that board. You have to be a current participant in our Section 8 voucher program, and you have to be in good standing, and you have to be head of household. And we had eight individuals serve on that board. We weren't able to actually get them in the office, and then, you know, some people are limited with internet access. So what we did, we just sent out a letter to those individuals with a response letter, comments page where they can fill out any comments that they have in regards to the 5-year annual plan that we sent them. The PHA consults with the RAB, so we did that, and we published a notification for a public meeting or public hearing 45 days before the meeting. And we posted the notice on the website the first week of September, and we posted it in the paper. It came out in the paper the following week. And we make all that information in regards to the 5-year annual plan available. We made it available. They could actually set up an appointment to come in to actually see that document, or they could pull that up on the website. On our website, we have that available as well for people to actually view it on the website. The PHA holds a public meeting, which we have set for October the 20th for you to, once the public hearing closes, council, since y'all act as our board, y'all will approve that, and then we will send that over to HUD. So with that public hearing in place, we also get any recommendations or written comments from anybody that participates in that public hearing. PHA uses public comments and RAB recommendations to revise plan as necessary, and PHA obtains signature on necessary certification and submits plan to HUD. And so after y'all approve the 5-year annual plan on October 20th, the date that we set the public, after the public hearing, if no one has comments, we'll submit that document over to HUD for their final approval. And with that being said, is there any questions that you have in regards to the 5-year annual plan at this time? Okay.
So we do this in the form of resolution?
Yes. And just to give you some backdrop on the 5-year annual plan, with COVID-19 in place, I have noticed there's a lack of a presence in housing, lack of a presence online. So that's going to be like our primitive goal moving forward in the next 5 years, just making sure that individuals are not only able to access it from our office, but also be able to access information that they need online. So, and if you look at what's also tied into there as well, we're making a change to our admin plan. We're trying to open the waiting list up in November. We've already consulted with Happy Software. They're getting the ball rolling for us. The only thing that y'all have to do is approve the changes to the admin plan, because right now we only have paper application forms that we can do because we have to stick to the admin plan. But with the changes, it's going to make the applications available online, and for those individuals that don't have internet access or can't use a computer, we'll have individuals in place, build a partnership with the library and maybe a couple of other organizations to help assist people with filling the application online, as well as having a reasonable accommodation for elderly and disabled. If they need a paper application, they can request one, and we'll send it to them. They'll get that information back to us, and we'll enter in the data ourselves. So.
Most of the costs associated with HUD and their funding is a pass-through for the city, is that correct?
Yeah, what it is we have our administrative costs, and what we do, we just reimburse the city for our costs. So anything associated with our expenses, we just reimburse the city. So.
Yes.
So Jay, you said that come November, we'll be taking applications.
Yes.
Do you have any idea how long the waiting?
I'm thinking of probably having it open for a 3-month period. I know the previous time it was open a little bit longer, but I think like with the application process previously, with it being paper, it takes time to get that data and stuff entered into the system, so you'll know exactly how many individuals have applied to the waiting list. But with the online application, once they fill it out overnight, that information is transferred into our database, and I probably could I could get a significant amount of people on the waiting list in 3 months. So
How long?
3 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone have any further questions for Mr. Harris?
Jay, so from my understanding, we are at the beginning of obtaining feedback from those residents that are currently on the housing program through the board, and then we will open an online feedback portion, and then we will also have a public hearing. And it sounds like you are looking to partner with community partners, organizations, public library, to gather feedback, or maybe meeting our community members where they're at, sounds like. So can you clarify, this plan, is it only to give feedback to HUD for their future planning, or does any of the information based on what our community members' needs are and they list, does that have any impact in the type of programs we'll have access to in the future?
No, actually, we actually are trying to get the community to participate in the public hearing and give us feedback on our PHA plan. The community actually give us direction on where we should go. As far as us partnering with other organizations, that's strictly just to help us with the waiting list.
Right.
Just in that regard.
But
we also,
the waiting list?
Yes. The waiting list is what people that are seeking housing assistance, they apply to the waiting list to get on the program.
So the partnership with the community organizations is to help send them elsewhere while they're on the waiting list?
Yeah, no, the partnerships for the waiting list is strictly to assist people that maybe are not competent with computers or are seeking help with applying to our waiting list. That's just to help them out in that regard.
To apply during that 3-month window?
Yeah, in that 3-month window. So if they're having any difficulties and they've never used a computer before, and they're like, hey, they go to the library, they set up an appointment and say, hey, can you help me apply online? I've never used a computer before. We'll have that in place to assist those individuals.
Right. So this is that purely planning information for PUD.
Yes.
It doesn't affect whether we qualify for one program or the other, whether they're available now.
No.
Yeah, I would say that the difficulty here is, we've talked several times about wanting to do a broader array of housing programs, and that's really something I need a legislative fix for, because the number and types of programs that Jay is able to deliver to the community are really constrained by what the rule book up in Washington DC is right now. And so if that were more flexible, then we could do a better job being responsive to our citizens. Our citizens often say, we wish you had XYZ other programs in place related to housing. I tend to agree with them when I hear that feedback, but right now we need some legislative change to make more flexibility in the program.
Yeah.
I would say this is a fairly constrained effort where we're really within a rut or a track that the federal government wants us to be in. We do our best, and we'll try to have excellence within the track that they've given us, but it would be nice if we had more flexibility.
Yeah. And then the programs that we're able to offer is all contingent on what HUD is offering as far as funds to do those programs. So if they send us an email, hey, we have, the BASH program, which was for veterans to get on Section 8. You can, if there's a need there, you can apply for those funds and use those funds to, take care of that initiative. So it's all predicated on what the availability is there.
Sure.
And Jay, just remind us about the date and time of the public hearing again.
The public hearing is going to take place October 30th at the 7 o'clock council meeting.
Any further questions, comment? Thank you, Jay.
No problem.
Let's go ahead and move to item number 5.3, discuss award.
I think, I'm sorry, I've got several looks on the face there. Can you give us that date again? Because I think maybe we said that date.
October 20th.
Yeah, not the 30th. Friday night here at City Council would be exciting on the 30th, but it's the 20th, which is a Tuesday night.
October
Thank you.
20th.
Yeah, October 20th. All right, thank you.
So let's go ahead and move on to item number 5.3, discuss award of bid for Apache Trail pavement replacement. It's going to be City Engineer Steve Rogers.
Mayor and Council, I'm bringing to you tonight bids for Apache Trail. If you'll remember, we put together some money, $500,000 in an agreement with the EDC for the Anglia shoe polish company to do some repairs on somewhere in the Mike Cronin Business Park. We looked at it and came up with a suggestion. We have that included in here. If you'll look at agenda page 35, there's a map, and that might be a good place to kind of start. Agenda page 35, there's a map. That map is highlighted in blue if you can find it. And the initial scope of the project is 500 feet in length. We're doing a full width remove and replace on this roadway. Last time we did anything this significant was back in 2008 when Mr. Caldwell was just a pup. He was back there working on another project back there. So that map has the base bid that we did, plus we did an alternate item because our bids came in below the money that we have appropriated for this. So we're going to recommend that we award the base bid. We're going to come back to you with a change order for this and add 42 feet on the west end and 66 feet on the east end. And that'll get us an additional little over 100 feet. So we'll be able to do an additional 100 feet on top of the 500 feet in the base bid. So if you'll flip to the next page, there is a bid tab from McManus and Johnson on agenda page 36. We received two bids, one from Pavecon Public Works, base bid $374,941.53. And if we add the additional 106 feet on to there, 108 feet on as we discussed, that'll add $74,520. That would make a total to them of $449,461.53 to PayCon. And that's basically what we're bringing to you tonight is a discussion item. So Mr. Dunlap would love for us to keep doing this on an annual basis. If I could do it for another 10 or 12 years, we'd almost get the business park completed.
Well, obviously, there's repairs needed in the industrial park. It's good that we're finally being able to target an area. I'm glad that the bids came in such a way that we were able to add some additional footage through our change orders to get the additional footage that's needed. There was nothing salvageable within that area? We're tearing that whole thing up?
It's all, yes, sir.
Okay.
The only way to fix this is to remove and replace.
Right, okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Steve, would you remind me out of which fund this will come out?
Capital Improvement Fund, I believe is where this money's parked.
The money came from...
Place that money in.
The money came from a incentive program with Angela Shoe Polish.
Right.
With
So-
EDC.
Right. The EDC previously voted to provide $500,000 to the city of Terrell. That money was received earlier this summer. It's in the capital improvement fund, waiting for Steve to spend it.
So the money that was put into that fund had a specific use. It had to be used in the industrial park. It came from the industrial park incentive, so really it's a wash for the city
Sure.
as far as money goes.
Sure. Well, if you find some more money out there for our city streets, I'd be happy to take that off your hands.
Any more questions or comments? Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. Let's go ahead and go back up. We have Ray Dunlap with us. Item number 5.1, discuss Terrell Economic Development Corporation programs. It's going to be Ray Dunlap. Please come forward.
Well, it sounds like I'm getting some change back. Which window do I go to get my change off that?
Hey, this isn't a not to exceed. This is.
Do you have a clicker right here?
See if it'll work, please, if you'll just,
Right, if we're having issues, we can
We're
go.
good.
there we go.
We're good.
Okay.
Well, now,
Oh, wait, okay, now. I have to click on that side. Is it working now or not?
I don't know, it was moving. Is that you or me?
Council, it's going to be for us,
Just
page
tell me when to
4
go to the
through.
next
Just back
slide.
up to-
Okay.
We'll
I'll
start
push
with
back
the
one.
page 4 for Ray.
For some
Okay,
reason-
just wanted to go over what you're seeing in this presentation that the EDC board saw. If you want to go to the next slide, and the next slide is that we had some non-project accomplishments. We revised the bylaws, which you approved. We, that's taken off on me.
No, Ray, before you get going, by the way, we have
I didn't get to share.
Tim Royce, District 5 representative, who has joined us now, so
Can
go ahead.
I didn't get to share my screen.
Okay.
So it just takes a second.
Okay,
Give me 1 second.
that's fine.
We'll start with a year review.
Non-project accomplishment.
Okay.
Mayor and Council, I'll tell you that I really appreciate Ray coming to do this tonight. Initially, this came up as sort of a education project for our Tax Increment Refinance Board of Directors and the Power Center Board of Directors to kind of orient some of them on some of Ray's programs. And frankly, I thought Ray did such a good job with it, and it was so informative that I felt like it was a good idea to just bring it on forward to council as well. Since he's new in his budget tonight, it seemed like the perfect opportunity. So Ray, thank you for coming to our Tax Increment Finance Board. Appreciate
You're
that very
welcome.
much.
I have Bruce Wood and Charles Woodard on my board. They told me never to turn down a free meal, so.
Those two.
Okay, so we're at the year in review.
Okay, go ahead.
I've got it, we've got it here in front of us.
Yeah.
Well, see, I don't.
I know, I'm
Um,
sorry. This it's just
That's all right.
not cooperating today.
We're good.
Okay, go ahead, let me switch this. There we go. Go ahead.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so we had some things that were non-incentivized projects. We revised the bylaws. We launched the Opportunity Zone, which, by the way, we're having a meeting tomorrow with some potential investors in the Opportunity Zone. We worked closely with the city to promote census participation, and thanks to the effort of council members and city staff and the Census Bureau, we were able to increase participation. I think we're up over 60% now. We updated our industry list. We've got a better list of industries. We worked with the city to add a driveway on 148 into EDC property so that we've got future development there covered. Maine's paper sold to Lineage. We worked on revising the agreement with them. We did our first ever industry Christmas event where we invited the council. Some of you attended and met with our industry. Worked to facilitate those relationships. We resumed having human resource roundtables with our major employers so that we're communicating with them. We're in the process of updating the EDC website. That should be hopefully accomplished first quarter of next year. And we're working on a new industry recruitment video. Some other projects that we did, EDC participates in projects that don't necessarily have incentives. So these are things that we participated in working with either the brokers, real estate community, or city staff. We helped bring Emergicon in. They do the emergency billing for ambulance services. They moved from 40, and they asked for incentives, and we said we don't incent people to move down the street from our neighbors. And so we got the business anyway, even without providing incentives. We work with Bingham Industries. They manufacture high-pressure nozzles. Mr. Fenner and Mr. Phillips and the city staff were very cooperative in helping get them through some of the hoops there. Whitmore, which is in the old Carlisle building over on Jameson Court, is wanting to expand. We've been working with them and the city staff. And Gallagher Lumber and Steel moved in over on 225 Metro. And so all of those, we just offered assistance in helping them through the process. We also, COVID-19 hit in March, and the chamber, the EDC, the city, the school district worked together. We really worked to research and keep our information for citizens and businesses up. We advocated for our businesses, both on the county level and the city level. We helped some of our business locate raw materials for their manufacturing process they were having trouble with. We used our local restaurants to feed industry so that we were able to do business retention and provide business for our local restaurants. We're running ad campaigns promoting shop in Terrell, work in Terrell, vacation in Terrell, and we're also now very actively helping our employers find employees. Because of the work that you as a council, the Commissioners Court did, our businesses, most of them were deemed essential. And so our businesses are needing employees. We have probably over 100 really good job openings in Terrell right now. And so we're working to help fill those. We incentivized two projects that we brought before you. One of them was 1836 Farms, and they are progressing along, and you can see the building and the ground start to change looks over there. Their targeted date now is mid-November. They are busy signing up accounts. They're running a great publicity campaign. They're also doing an Amazon Prime video on this entire project. They've had the mayor featured on that. It's going to be on Amazon Prime in January. So we're also working with 1836 Farms and the robotics department at Terrell High School. They have some needs that our students may be able to fulfill. And so the EDC is working to coordinate that project, and that'll be really great publicity for us on a national level to have our students involved in this. Lone Star Cold Storage, they bought the old Russell Stover building, and we've worked to help them. They have an option to buy the land next door that the EDC owns to expand that process. We had a couple of things like anybody else that we set out to do that didn't get done during the year, and one is the rail spur. The rail spur's been in process for a number of years, but the EDC's been bearing the cost on that. So this year we had a goal of shifting that cost of repair and maintenance to the businesses using. COVID hit at the time, and we just didn't think it was proper to go to the businesses that were dealing with that. So that's on our high priority list for this year, is to get that participation. Opportunity zones also got slowed down by COVID, but both of these projects are now back on track and moving. Business retention, Mr. Terrell, which by the way, you mentioned October 30th, that is his wedding date. It's also, so if y'all were going to have a meeting, you know, that would be interesting. Carlton, through the Chamber Economic Development setup, the beauty of this setup is that Carlton is able to really help me with business retention while conducting chamber business. So it goes hand in hand, and he does a lot of the business retention. Ham's Peach Orchard, the mayor, Mr. Sims, Carlton, Congressman Gooden, work together to keep Union Pacific Railroad from putting a siding track and wiping out one of our major attractions. Film Alley, Carlton really worked with Film Alley during COVID to find different ways to help keep them open and to keep them as a viable business. He's worked with Maine's, Oldcastle, Madix, Nucor, Renfro, and Hellwig. These are just some of the companies that in one way or another, we've worked with them to help solve issues, whether it was internet issues, whether permitting issues, just various things there. Carlisle, Emergicon, AutoZone, the shops at Terrell, which used to be Tanger, Platinum Ford, and with the payroll protection program, we've really worked to keep our industries updated. Going forward, this next year is, we know that COVID's here to stay, and that we can either hide under a rock or we can learn to live with it. So our goal this year is focused more on keeping our businesses that we have viable than recruiting new businesses. Yes, we're still going to be recruiting new businesses. Yes, we're still going to be working those projects. However, we want to develop some more technical office and industrial space. We're about out of land in Mike Cronin. We've done a floodplain study, and we can reclaim about 12 acres in the Airport Road Business Park, which gives us roughly 72 acres of usable land there. That's not a whole lot of land. I mean, I've had RFPs come across my desk in the last couple of months looking for 200 acres, 1 million square feet. So we are now actively pursuing partners that have land that are looking to turn that into maybe some industrial space. Land that is either in the city limits or that is our ATJ and can be annexed into the city as a part of the process. So we're exploring these partnerships because they make sense. Medical, we're actively working to recruit a hospital. We're working closely with Mr. Sims and his team and people on that project. We're the perfect place for a hospital. It makes sense because we can cover a lot of territory. One of the biggest challenges we have is that we don't have in our market area for a hospital as much private insurance as a hospital developer is going to want to see. However, there are rooftops starting to come around with projects that you guys have authorized, and some in our ETJ and some outside of our ETJ, but there are rooftops in the market that will help bring a hospital, so we're working on that. We're working to get the EDC property appraised so we can get the right values on it. We are looking to choose a bond company to help us with our financial planning. Some of our projects are going to require some long-term strategic financial goals. Business retention, as I said, we're working really hard on business retention. Workforce development, we're looking to develop an area of flex space buildings, and this is one of our goals in here is to create a space for Terrell entrepreneurs that might not otherwise have a chance to grow their business. We're looking for ways to help incubate our local residents so that somebody with an idea and a good business plan and reasonable financial backing that we can help create some spaces for them to grow. That could be anything from students leaving the CTE to local businesses that are in their backyard that are ready to grow. So we're exploring opportunities there. We are looking to make underserved communities a priority this year, to give our residents that maybe haven't had the slice of the American dream that they need, to give them opportunities. That is high on our priority list. Career and technical education, I am a big believer in career and technical education. Not everybody's going to be a doctor or a lawyer or an Aggie engineer. You know, people are going to need to be plumbers and electricians, landscape companies, irrigation companies. We have a great technical program. So the EDC works. We have a new director out there, Lucas Hurst, and he's director of college and career readiness. So we're working both on technical aspects, college, we're working on white-collar jobs, blue-collar jobs, geared toward helping our residents. We're working on entrepreneur training, etiquette enhancement, and we continue to collaborate with our local industries. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had our HR directors meet Luke Hurst, and they were able to have conversations on things that industry needs. Retail recruitment, we will still work with retail recruitment. We have the shops at Terrell, which are going to have some vacancies and reimagining some things. Crossroads continues to go, but quite frankly, our focus is more on the other areas. Crossroads they've got CBRE, they've got Realty Link, so they've got people out there singing their praises. We're going to work for the rest of town. Okay.
So Mayor, can I just put a pause here? So that is one of our agenda items, 5.1, I think. And so that's the overview related to programs. So we might pause here to take questions about the overall programs before we hop into budget, because that's technically the next agenda item.
All right. So I want to thank Ray and our Economic Development Corporation Board, its leader Bruce Wood as chairman, and all of the members actually that understand the importance of not just business recruitment, but also business retention. These companies, when they go out and research where they're going to locate, one of the things that they do is they reach out to other companies within the municipality or within the city to see how they're treated, right? It's easy to get you to come to the dance. It's different than ever dance with them, right? So it's so important that we put emphasis on job retention. One, it keeps our citizens working and employed, and it gives good word of mouth to other companies about how Terrell does business and how our Economic Development Corporation operates. They should be commended for doing that. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Ray?
No, Mayor and Ray, I could go on and on about the wonderful things that are going on with the TEDC right now, from workforce development with our students, to making sure that we are hearing from our current business owners, like the HR roundtables, and working with our partners, whether it's the school district or the workforce that's located, workforce office located in Terrell. Certainly, I'm looking for, we're about to jump into the budget, so I am looking to see, how much emphasis we're putting on businesses that are not normally, and it have not been those traditional businesses that have been part of the Chamber of Commerce, or that have sought out some of the support that is available through the TEDC or the Chamber of Commerce. And certainly, looking forward to see how much we're investing in those, flex space programs for our students. I think I'd love to see something maybe even downtown, where we would have maybe a flex space for restaurant, those who want a small space for a restaurant for food, but also want to sell something that they make at home, and keep them here and have more places for our visitors or our own community members to visit when they're in the downtown area. I'm going to keep it short today so I can let you get to your budget presentation.
Okay, thank you. And to answer some of that, some of this stuff is drawing board. We are working to find the right partnerships. You know, as far as downtown and restaurant, that's going to be more of a paddock board than type A, because legally we can't use the type A funds for the restaurant development and stuff. Ours are going to be more for primary jobs. And so that's why we can work with an entrepreneur that develops a plumbing company or an electrical company and grow into that. So I had a meeting yesterday with a flex space developer. I'm trying to get 2 or 3 more meetings with flex spaces. One thing that the EDC has to contribute to that deal is land. So we've got places where if we can find a developer, we can put land in the deal, and we want control of space that we can help our local businesses afford the rent until they step up to market. So that is our long-term goal with that.
Okay, thank you, Ray.
So Ray, if you would just, does anybody have any other questions?
Okay, just to hit the budget highlights is that revenues, I revised revenue projections down a little bit. We're looking at, I'd rather estimate expenses high and revenues low, because I don't want to have to go back to the board and tell them that we made a mistake. We're looking at about 1.8 million in usable revenue after the rebates to Crossroads and Builders First Choice. We still have on the books about $537,000 of outstanding incentives. At the end of the budget year, which we just hit, we expected an unencumbered cash balance of $906,000, so we're really good at keeping our powder dry. These are the carryover expenses: preferred powder coating, R&R design, 1836 Farms. We still owe them, once they get their CO, for pre-treatment of their water. And regional detention we're designing. In fact, that is going to be underway soon with the designs already there. What we're going to do is the 2 lots that we've got, Lot 10 and Lot 11 in Metro Crest, we're going to create a regional detention area. I believe it's called Drainage Improvements, right, Mr. Rogers? And so Mr. Rogers has already signed off on that, and we've got Kimberly Ford designing it, and John Godwin's actually going to manage the construction project for us so that I can work with the companies. Those are incentives that we're carrying over. Crossroads Builders First, that's 318,130. That's a pass-through. Whatever we take in, Mr. Sims gives with one hand and he takes with the other. We've got a $1.5 million line of credit at American National that we haven't used. That's got another year on that. The EDC also has the ability to sell bonds. That's why we're going to explore interviewing a bond company. We've got several on the list that a subcommittee of the board are going to interview. So what we did is, Councilwoman Velasquez, is that we budgeted $450,000 for debt service. Now, it is highly unlikely that during this budget year we're going to incur the debt that requires that, but we want that in there so that we've set that aside. And that is, if we find the right partner with land, we're going to need to bring some infrastructure to that to build a business park. Or if we get the developer with the flex spaces, there may be some water, sewer, things like that that we partner with you guys through the utility fund to help bring in. So we have the chamber contract, that's $290,000. That takes care of all of me. It pays 100% of my cost, and it pays part of Carlton, Talana, and Angie, and pays about 1/6 of the building cost as far as mowing and utilities and maintenance. Business retention, that figure is actually, the total number of the budget did not change, but after this presentation was made, the board moved $50,000 out of marketing to business retention. So that figure is actually $188,000, and that is to help do job fairs, that is to help recruit business, it is to advertise for our businesses, not specifically, but generally in Terrell. We're going to again have the annual Christmas dinner to bring council, the EDC board, and businesses together. Professional services, this is going to be a big year for professional service. I've already talked to Mary Gail. We're going to need to bring in outside counsel to help with an agreement, because this is going to be a pretty big agreement with a landowner as far as EDC and looking out for all of our interests there. We've got engineering fees. We're in the process right now. Kimley Horn is working with Mr. Rogers to look at some potential land that the EDC is exploring, and they're investigating and doing a study on how we can handle the industrial sewer and what we need to do with that. We're going to have our properties appraised. Marketing, we're going to move, marketing instead of 150 will be 100. That's where the 50 went to business retention. We just moved the advertising dollars. We reduced that down from 200 last year because in last year's budget, we paid to build a new website, do a new marketing video, and things like that. New promotional items. Next one. Consultant expense, that is simply contract labor to have somebody help me run the construction projects that we do. I'm still doing all the economic development stuff in the meeting and the traveling and the recruiting and the dealing and negotiating, but with all we've got going on, we need a little extra help. And rail repairs, that's going to be a pass. That's our goal, is to make that a pass-through this year. We've got $100,000 on the revenue side, $100,000 on the expense side. Although the EDC will probably spend some of our money. There's a piece of the spur from Carlisle to the end of the Goodyear building. There are companies that are now actively looking at the Goodyear building, the owners of it. The lease with Goodyear doesn't expire till the end of 21. However, the owners of the building, Goodyear would not mind getting out of paying. They're completely vacated the building, and we've had 2 people tour the building in the last 3 weeks. And so the EDC may end up fixing the rail spur to make that building attractive. Property maintenance, this is mowing our property that we've got. Of course, obviously, as we get rid of some of that property, that will go down, but then as we accrue new property, that'll go back up in future years. Traveling conferences, we reduced that to $25,000 from $41,000. We've got our powder dry because COVID is still reducing some travel, but we're hoping that by mid-year some of that will change. At the end of this budget year, we expect to have over $1 million in unencumbered cash. Again, keeping our powder dry for incentives.
So, Mayor and Council, if you want to take a look at the, that's the overview. If you wanted to look at the detail, that was provided to you in your meeting packet, starting on agenda item page 31, was all of the details that match with what Ray just presented.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I'm pleased that EDC's healthy, the corporation's healthy and strong and moving forward with their plan of action as far as it goes for this coming year. And I think you're right, COVID is going to have some effect, at least the first quarter, second quarter maybe, moving forward. Anybody have any question, comment?
My final comment, Ray, is more of a logistical, what I kind of have a vision for the way we do like job fairs. I see that over COVID-19 there has been some businesses in town that have done like a drive-through job fair, and we have had individuals that go through those job fairs. And I'm looking for ways that we could bring those businesses, to our neighborhoods. I know COVID-19 has changed the way we do things here recently, and I think, we had our library director here earlier, and I know there's been some partnerships there, whether it's with the TDC or maybe some of our other local like temp job agencies, and looking to see how we could, have a more of a widespread presence in some of those job fairs throughout our community, realizing that COVID-19 is here, and maybe it's something we get to do this year, or maybe it's something that we plan for in future years, and working with Star Transit and some of the transportation that they could help with for those that maybe don't have transportation at this time.
Actually, that's a great idea. We have a good relationship with Star Transit. I'll be hitting Mr. Caldwell up in a few weeks about We already have a drive-by, well, drive-by is probably not a good term, a drive-through job fair slated. Mr. Sims and I visited with it, and so my only next step is to get with Mr. Caldwell and to look at. And we can do it, and if there's place in the neighborhoods, we can do it just as easy. Our employers had asked about Bengill Park.
Right.
And that's something that we can partner with Star Transit to go through the neighborhoods. That's a great idea and something that is real easy to do.
No, I'll backtrack here. I have an additional question, and maybe education, because it's been some time since I've been out of high school. So when we talk about, job fairs and high schools, or an opportunity to partner, what is it that we're doing with our high schools, or high school students are, getting ready to graduate? Is there opportunity to work with the school district if there is a job fair at the city level where we could have some of those students attend, or preparation for those type of interviews? I'm sure the school is doing some of that already, but what if we could have those students who are planning to stay here locally over the summer or their next couple of years, that had an opportunity to really get to know some of our businesses here in town?
Actually, we're already in the process of doing that.
Awesome.
We have met with Mr. Hurst, the Director of Career and Technology. I'm just now trying to coordinate multiple schedules with Superintendent Warnock, Deputy Superintendent McGee, Mr. Hurst, myself, and some members of the business community. And so we're meeting with them to get them back active in the CTE. That's the things that are on the table for discussion that are at a 30,000-foot level right now are mentorship programs with our local businesses. They are job fairs. They are career days where people can learn about different careers. If I'd have known about economic development when I was in high school, I probably would have gotten into it years ago. And so that we can educate students on things that are out there.
Thank you, Ray.
All right, thank you, Ray. I need a drum roll for Ray. Item number 5.4 is to discuss City of Terrell American Way and Sage Hill Parkway Connector Agreement with the Terrell Economic Development Corporation. This is City Manager Mike Sims.
So, Mayor and Council, I'm going to try to make a fairly boring item exciting, because the fact of the matter is, this is basically some language that, as Ray and I looked at our agreement that we signed a few years back related to the Event Center partnership, that we said, gosh, we wish we'd been far-sighted enough at the time to just basically include this language at the time. The idea is that when the agreement was originally put together for us to have both an EDC incentive, a City of Terrell incentive, a hotel occupancy tax incentive, a tax increment refinance district incentive, a power center incentive, as we put all of that together in that very complicated agreement with SRH Hospitality related to the future event center behind Film Alley, we contemplated that as, hey, let's build American Way and the event center at the same time. And we ended up with an eventuality earlier this year, as you know, where one of our development partners came forward and said, look, we should really go ahead and build this road ahead of time. They wanted to spend the money now rather than later to build that road. We looked at that and said, hey, you know what, that's really good for fire access, it's good for ambulance access, it's good for having a way from the south to get into the development and save you a little bit of traffic on FM 148 if you could come in from a different direction. And so we looked at that and we said, yeah, let's move forward in it. But what we wanted to do was to write up a little contingency of, well, what if bad things happen and the event center doesn't get constructed? Do we have a financial arrangement in place where it affords us to pay back two different sources that would need to get paid back if we don't build the event center? one being the Hotel Occupancy Tax Fund, and the other being the Terrell Economic Development Corporation. So this agreement does both of those things. It comes to you recommended unanimously by the Economic Development Corporation and by our Tax Increment Refinance District and by our Power Center Board of Directors. So it's highly recommended, I suppose, we'll put it that way. If you scroll over to the second page, you can see basically that we are talking about the reimbursement of funding for American Way and Sage Hill Parkway. It's out there. You can drive on it today. So we do have that road constructed. So we know it's there. But what we're trying to do here is to say, well, what if SRH does not actually build that event center? So what are we doing? We're going over here to Article 3. Tells us the TEDC is going to notice us and tell us of its intent to collect reimbursement in the event of default. And so they say, okay, hey, if we actually pay that $500,000, which they will do soon, to reimburse the construction of that roadway, how do they get paid back? They get paid back from Article 4, city obligations, and this is where your tax increment refinance district comes in, and they say, okay, well, we'll make whole on the EDC payment of that $500,000. That's what Article 4, Part A says. And then likewise, under Article 4, Part B, the tax increment refinance district also makes whole with the expenses, which are around $300,000 associated with the hotel occupancy tax funds. So we track that, we keep charge of it, we make sure that all of that gets done correctly. Frankly, if we didn't put this agreement in place, our auditors would tell us to do this, but we wanted to be proactive and get it in place. Like I said, if we were perfectly far-sighted, we'd have thought of this 2 years ago when we wrote the agreement, but here we are, and we'd like your permission to move forward on this item.
So council, all we're doing here is just making formal what the deal is and how the money's gonna flow. It's the right thing to do. It spells out who's, where our obligation is as far as the city's concerned. The ADC is gonna step forward and make the payment, and then we're just gonna pay it back.
Yeah, and I'll just say kudos to the private sector here. They looked at that agreement and said, well, gee, you know, what if we separate the construction of the public infrastructure from the building and deliver the public infrastructure faster? And when the private sector developer wants to spend money on a road faster, it's hard to say no to that. It's good to get that road built, and we're all happy to be at this point.
Well, it'll help the traffic flow in and around.
Absolutely.
So, infrastructure's always good, needs to happen. Does anybody have any questions, comments? No? Okay. Item number 5.5, discuss annual and approval of Texas Civil Construction Notice for bid number 17-07 for Safe Routes to School. This is going to be Glenn Caldwell.
So Mayor, as Glenn's getting started, I'm going to ask you to turn to, and Dawn, maybe you can help me, this is agenda item page, I think, 55. Agenda item page 55 is actually the actual map associated with the project, if I'm not mistaken. And I always get misoriented by this map. This is a map where instead of north-south, just because of the linear nature of the project, on your left-hand side of the page is South Rockwall, and on your right-hand side of your page is North Rockwall. And so that's sort of the visual that we're looking at here. And so Glenn will take it away and explain from there. If you could just orient us on the map first, and then we'll jump into the rest of it.
Okay. So one of the objectives is to address a continuation of sidewalk there on Rockwall, South Rockwall. The goal is we installed a Safe Routes to School project back in 2009, which was very successful. So this allows us to do some connectivity going toward the north. We also will be implementing some portion of sidewalk going back to the south as well. And as well, we will be doing a cut through from the Brownstone Apartments, which will put us there about, I guess, Adelaide, over to the west, back toward Rockwall. That's going to be the, I don't know if you guys see this, but there's a little, I guess that would be yellow or gold connection there, which is well needed. That'll allow the kids kids to transition from the apartment complex and the residents over to the schools in that area, Gilbert Willie and so forth.
Yeah, and I can't help myself here, Glenn. I'm so happy with this project. The tail south end of this, as you go down South Rockwall, where they're constructing along the west side of Rockwall, that actually connects to an economic development deal that we did a couple of years ago, where the Rose Hill Estates project has responsibility for building up and meeting us at that location. So we're already kind of looking ahead there and have a plan for continuing even further south with one of our economic development deals. I'm sorry, Glenn.
No,
I'm
that's
just
wonderful.
very happy with this project.
Yes, sir. I'd like to go back a little bit and brief you guys on a little history on this particular project. This is a 2017 project which we worked on back in 2017. It's a transportation alternative project which we call Identify Safe Routes to School. We procured a consultant which was Half Associates back in January of 2017. We then came to council with a resolution 845, which council did approve that resolution, which was in February of 2017 as well. That was the middle of February 2017. We then submitted the application after you all approved the resolution, which that occurred at the end of February. So there's a fast track here of getting through this particular application. The application was submitted and it was approved in May, which leads us to where we are today. And I want to take this opportunity to let Mr. Horn present the possibility of our selection for this particular project.
Good afternoon, Council. Project 17-07, Terrell Safe Routes to School. We have a total of one complete bid that was received for the project. The bidders submitted with their respective bid a complete set of documents as required by the contract documents. The base bid submitted by Texas Civil Construction was a total of $628,491.55. Texas Civil Construction provided project references, and Half Associates checked those references listed in their experience records for Texas Civil Construction, and they were all referred as positive.
Well, do you have, is it 628,000 or 626,109.55?
The actual bid is 628,000, I believe it is. Let me go back to the page. It's going to be right here. Go to your bid selection right here. So this is, I have to take my glasses off to see that number. 628,000 is the actual bid dollar amount, and then we had a probable cost estimate which came in at the 626. So it was off a few pennies there.
Okay, gotcha.
Usually you don't want to be the low bid if you're an engineer, but under circumstances it's pretty close. So we call that a wash.
Okay.
You can also see this information in the opinion of probable cost, which is also included in your agenda packet. And Mr. Caldwell and Mr. Sims kind of went over this earlier. This project includes Rockwall Avenue from Baker Street, just south of Baker Street, to Moore Avenue, just past the railroad tracks, and it also includes that sidewalk intersection just north of Baker Street from Rockwall Avenue to Brownstone Apartments. That's all. You have any questions?
Any questions? Well, you know what, anytime we're able to improve walkways and access for kids to get to and from school, that's a great thing. I like the Safe Routes program. Our participation with this, from the city standpoint, is to, again, make things safer for our kids. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Yes, but,
Go ahead. Yes.
you're exactly right, Mayor. The safe routes that were done over in my district or whatever, it has changed the neighborhood completely. Not just safe routes for the kids, but it gives people, it just seems like it's easier, it's more efficient and safer for them to go to the park and to walk their animals, or for the kids to get back and forth to school. It has changed the whole neighborhood over there in the town north area.
No, good thing.
So, thank you both. You know, and really appreciative of you taking feedback based on you know, community members' concerns, my concerns. I know what we have been working with Glenn and with Mike and the mayor to really address the area between the yellow area that you see on the left side of the page between South Rockwall and South Francis Street there. Because it is an open drainage area that needs regular maintenance, and for some reason or another, trash gets left there quite a bit. Smaller pieces of trash get left there. So it certainly is both a safety concern for our families traveling from Brownstone, trying to get to the school, or just walking in the neighborhood. So I think this will be a vibrant project for our community. I think it's certainly meeting, it's a neighborhood level infrastructure project, which is something that I've been pushing for. Then it also addresses the McGrove and South Rockwall intersection that we've been pushing for as well. So you gave us a little bit of education, or Mike gave you some education on, why some of the areas were selected as far as the most southern portion that is leading up to where the developer is going to build their sidewalk. So it looks like on the northern area of South Francis, the reason that we've selected, and correct me if I'm wrong, the west side of South Rockwall Street is because there's already existing sidewalk just to the south of that.
If I'm following you correctly, I believe that is the connectivity to the Grove Street project, which I believe Mr. Rogers oversaw that project. Gives us opportunity to give connectivity there. And then if you also take that from the west side, it'll also hopefully allow us to do a future project which will connect the Adelaide Downtown Revitalization Project, connect it where it terminates at Grove. We're going to take that then and head west to connect all of that to the Safe Routes to School project there on Rockwall.
Okay.
Although I didn't really get a chance to, so can you hear me?
Thanks, Rob.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was looking at, I think it's 600, and it says, let's see, there's 74,000 in there for lighting and marking. Are we adding lighting to that proposed section of sidewalk, or what does that 74,000 entail?
Let's see.
That's correct. There will be some lighting in that project. That is correct.
Is that the connection to Brownstone?
Sir?
Connection to Brownstone?
We can definitely take a look at the connection to Brownstone as well. As far as lighting, if that's what you're asking. I think I got part of what you said, but I don't think there would be a problem with putting lighting between that connectivity, because we'll go with the solar lighting, which would be less expensive and more beneficial to that area.
Okay, great.
So, the lighting, so can we expect to see lighting on that southern portion too, increased lighting? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well,
Brownstone and that southern portion past Baker Street.
okay, so one of the things we've got to consider in this particular project, we have a street light ordinance that we've been following. I believe it's Ordinance 399. So if it warrants a street light, we will install a street light there. But if memory serves me, I believe there is a street light within the 300 linear feet or 400 linear feet of this particular project. So that area may not warrant a street light being installed.
Okay, but Brownstone does.
But Brownstone, because it's off of the main quarter of the walkway. So, and we do not want a pedestrian walkway unlit,
Okay.
which is not on the main quarter with street lights.
Yeah, and I guess what I'd say is, let's get started on building this thing, and let's let Glenn and Carnell come back sometime as we're rolling here. They'll know, I think they could bring back a better kind of an explanation about the lighting locations. That will help council. In fact, maybe Glenn can just email it to me and I'll get it out to council so you can see what parts of the project are lighted or not lighted.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
No, sir.
Item number 5.6, discuss update of solid waste ordinances. Again, Glenn Caldwell.
Mr. Mayor, Council, you go ahead.
I was just going to give you the brief comment that, remember, we talked about this at our budget retreat, and we had a whole bunch we were doing to get fees in place for the coming fiscal year, FY21. And as we were working through that process, I think I mentioned to you at an earlier council meeting, we really wanted to pause and take a deep breath and look at some of the ordinances. Greg Shumpert was very helpful to get us through the ordinance process here. We just didn't think there was anything wrong if our citizens had an extra month or two of a lower cost, but we are now ready to bring forward the explanation on how we're doing this, what ordinances need to change, and basically get it all squared away correctly. So that's the meat of what Glenn's going to show you. But we're going to get down here at the end of Glenn's presentation, and he's going to show you something you need to think about for fiscal year 22, and that may be more exciting than the whole thing. So, Glenn, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Mr. Mayor, Council. Slide number 2, let's see, for you all, I believe it's going to be 57, okay? Slide 57, so my numbers are going to be different than yours. But what you'll see is all of our hand collect, you've got residential hand collect along with our commercial hand collect, which is going to be number of carts associated with the hand collect. One of the things that we also included in there is the mobile home park, which there's 186 collects there at that particular location. So if you follow along residential, we have approximately 4,537 residential hand collectors. Yes. Okay, the next slide, I wanted to provide a little roll-off data because I don't know if very many people realize the number of roll-offs or compactors that are in this community. And I'm going to do something a little different. I want to start from the bottom of the page and work up. The very bottom item is a haul. When we talk about hauls, that's a 42-yard canister. And it's enclosed, and it's called a packer because it compacts that product. That's a lot of your businesses and industries receive those. So they pack a lot of material in those compactors, and then it's transported to the waste station. And as you can see, there's 37 of those. I'm just going to hit the larger numbers. Obviously, there's 40-yard roll-offs. We have 79 of those in the community. We have 90 30-yard roll-offs. Those are all open top. And as you can see, we've got a couple of 20-yard, which could be a mix of individuals that are demoing or remodeling homes. Some of these other dumpsters come into play on this particular analysis. So the next slide, we wanted to bring forward and talk about the commercial and industrial rates. We're looking forward to bringing you a update on our commercial industrial roll-off franchise fee, which it has been 10% since the year 2000. I believe that's the year that we initially went into a contract with Waste Connection or ISI, or I don't remember the exact name. Ms. Rogers might can help me with that. But anyway, Lone Star now. They're Lone Star. So our goal is to bring that forward, and it's not going to go up. We're just going to make sure that our franchise fee identifies with our ordinance, current ordinance. There will be no proposed rate adjustment on this particular item, as I just said a moment ago. We're going to bring that to you tonight and brief you on it. Obviously, I think we're going to come forward at the 7 o'clock meeting to ask, no, we're not. It's going to be the 22nd, isn't it? We're going to come back to you on the 22nd to ask, 20th? Okay.
Yes.
October 20th to ask for action on that particular item. As we talked about during the budget retreat, our goal was to take a closer look at our residential rates. So if you take a look at the slide, the current base rate is $10.52 for residential, and we're asking to council to consider increasing the residential service, implement a service rate of $2, $2 additional dollars, which brings our billing rate for a individual resident to $12.52
A month.
$2. It's $2 rate increase.
$12.52 a month.
Yeah.
So it'd be $12.52 a month. Yes, sir.
And that number's unchanged since we created the budget for FY21. That's the exact same news we already discussed, right? That number's embedded in your budget.
Yes, sir. And the same thing will go into effect for our commercial cart rates. They'll all increase by $2. The commercial cart, if you have one cart, it'll be $26.91 versus $24.91. Commercial rate for 2 carts is $32.67 now. It'll go up to $34.67. 3 carts is $44.31 today, and our goal is to bring that over up to $46.31. 4 carts, $53.29. $2 rate increase is $55.29. And the mobile home park, currently $16.34. The rate increase will bring that up to $18.34.
So just for clarity, when Glenn talks franchise fee, that's an ordinance. We provided to you, that's ordinance number 2850. And as he just talked about the services for the commercial hand carts and the residential carts, or the residential pickup, that's ordinance 2851. So that's the stuff we're going to vote on soon, okay? So Glenn has successfully completed the chunk of his presentation that's sort of the background on that. And now we're going to transition to, well, wait a minute here, the next PowerPoint slide is, what about next year? Okay, so this is the fasten your seatbelts moment here.
Yes, it is. This is where council gets an opportunity to provide direction and decisions. I know we had some discussion during the budget retreat, so I just want to bring forward some items that you can now marinate and come to a better conclusion on. The first is the current service rate that we have with our contract with our service provider. We currently are charged to the city, that meaning our service provider, which is Waste Connection or Lone Star, $9.32. Okay? Is everyone clear on that? $9.32. So our goal is to bring forward the council to create an opportunity to do a franchise fee increase, which we talked about earlier, which is currently 12%. We're looking, I'm sorry? 10%, I'm sorry, 10%. 10%. Our goal is to bring that up to 17.5%.
So an increase of 7.5%.
That's correct, increase of 7.5. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. And as well, obviously, the service fee will remain at $2, which we'll be looking at for current service, $12.95. if everything stays as is. We can also, the next item is looking at current service plus take-all brush. That's an option. Current service plus take-all brush would be $12.11. And with the franchise fee and the $2 service fee, you're looking at $16.22. Once a week, with one trash cart to every household, we would be looking at $10.21.
Do you have a size on that trash cart?
Those are 35 gallon, I believe. They're either 35 or 55.
Big ones, but the medium ones.
Well, I'm going to say they're either 35 or 55. Now, whether you classify them as the big ones, they're about 4 foot tall and about 3 foot, 2 foot wide, 2 to 3 foot. 4 by 3 maybe.
The ones that are recommended
I don't know the
to use
exact
now,
dimension.
Is it the same size as the ones we're recommended to use now, or just a size up?
No, same size that we're recommending to use. A lot of the resident, commercial businesses have those, I think. Mr. Shumpert has one as well.
If you drive down South Alley, most of the commercial hand cart pickups are that size. So if you just want a visual of it, drive down South Alley, and it's the size of those.
So I'd say, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, and while we're kind of paused here, the slide says FY21, but what we're talking about here is FY22 options, okay? We've got a contract with our provider that expires in February. Glenn's taken the lead for us and said, okay, current provider, what are you willing to do for FY '22? And so basically, the answer here is they would keep some of their fee structure the same if we do current service, but then obviously the policy question for council is, you got 5 options here. So sometime between now and February, what do you need to settle in on? What do you want to tell your contract provider to do in FY '22? Glenn and I need direction so we can go back to that contractor and say, okay, council had input, council liked which one of these 5 options. And so you want to thoroughly understand it and ask Glenn a lot of questions about it. But basically what we're telling you is that these are the fees that would be to the resident in FY '22 if we move forward under any of these different options here.
And I'd like to add, the reason these options are on the table is there's a contract renewal coming due. So now's the time to make those decisions on which direction we go.
And this is something you can get later too, is I'm wondering, what is considered as bulk? How big does it have to be bulk?
Oh, okay, so let me just say, bulk is just our current rule book, okay? So if we call it bulk now, couch, mattress, that sort of thing, right now you're supposed to take that to the Citizens Convenience Station on your own, or you're supposed to schedule a specific pickup. So what we said to the provider was, okay, we hear lots of different input from lots of different folks. One piece of input we get is, man, can't you just pick up all my brush and all my bulk, just charge me for it? And so we thought, okay, let's just show that number to council. So if you want your citizens to have the convenience of, by golly, twice a week, it doesn't matter what they set out, it gets picked up. Doesn't matter how much brush, how much bulk, whatever. You can see that that would mean our residents would have to pay $26.77 every month for trash pickup, because that's a Cadillac of a service there. So I'm not advising it, I'm just giving you your parameters here. So we've heard the input about, well, gee, I wish I had a roll cart, okay? You can see if you do roll cart once a week, it's $14. You do roll cart twice a week, it's $18.46. And the idea here is that you get your first roll cart complimentary, and any additional roll cart you've got to pay for. So let's say you're a big family like mine, and you say, man, I'm going to need a lot of these roll carts. Well, then there's a price for each additional roll cart that you contract with the contractor on. So there is some complication. You can get into the details of this. Our point is Glenn needs input on, of those 5 options, are we gravitating or thinking about any of one of those options being better than another option?
All right, so I want to make sure the current service we've got right now
Yes, sir.
is where you can put out any trash you have in your container.
Well, not any trash.
Well, not bulk, nothing not like that, but I'm saying if you have a container, trash can,
Okay.
right?
Yes, sir.
You can put that trash can out, or you can put 2 trash cans out.
That's
Some people
correct.
put 3 trash cans out.
5 bags.
5 bags is
Yes, sir.
supposed to be
That's
the
the
max.
objective. 5 bags should be the
Up to
max.
5 bags.
That's correct. And the weight also has a play in.
I'm sorry to say that?
The weight of the bags and the cans, that's also a factor that's determined. So if you've got 5 bags and they weigh over 50 pounds, or I believe it's 35 pounds, I believe, if memory serves me, then that presents a problem, because they may only take 1 or 2 bags, or they may not take any of it
How they
because of the
weigh
weight.
them? They weigh them before they take them?
They don't weigh a million, you know they don't weigh.
Well, but I have to show this because this is
Right.
part of their contract.
Right.
And people need to know that. People are putting bricks and other things in these trash cans and they can't lift them.
Right.
So they wait, and the resident has to reduce the weight in that can, and then they'll pick it up.
Okay.
It
So,
happens all the time.
my question for you is this. Why should all residents pay for brush and bulk when the majority of them don't put it out? Why wouldn't we have a separate fee if you're going to put out brush or you're going to put out bulk and charge you per whenever you do it? Can you do that?
it would really bring forward a complicated process.
Well,
And-
I'm not comfortable charging customers for something they don't use. I don't put brush out, I don't put bulk out.
You got dead hogs out
Well, I know, but I don't put them out
Yeah,
there.
let's clarify. So right now, today, you can put 5 yards of brush out any given week.
That's correct.
We drive by, we look at it, we say, hey, that looks like 5 yards of brush. We're going to pick it up, and it's included in the price, because the general going theory there is that everybody is going to have some brush sometime, and it might not be this month of this year, it might be that month next year, but in general, that has been considered to be the level that we're not going to charge you extra for. If you have more than 5 yards of brush, you really need to be working with your landscape contractor to just take that out on your own, and that's kind of the management tool that we've used. And I'll tell you, that will give staff a headache from time to time, because we got to drive by and say, yeah, there's a reason we didn't take the 50 trees you cut down last night and take them all at one time. So when I say current service, just think of the rules we've got in place now. You can't just put a mattress out and expect it to get picked up. You can't gut down 5 trees in your backyard and expect it all to get picked up. We give you a measured way. You got to call ahead about bulk, and you got to manage your bulk, blah, blah, blah. So current service has a lot of advantages to it, right? Because you're not overly subsidizing any one person, okay? When you get down to these other options, that's where you start getting into the, well, it sounds nice to say all brush, or it sounds nice to say all brush and all bulk, but you are overly subsidizing the citizen who overuses that process, right? I mean, it's just as simple as it gets. So again, when you look at these, we stepped away from giving you a recommendation. We wanted to get policy input, pure as it can be, on which one of these 5 y'all are gravitating to.
You know, as I think about, the number of rental homes that we have, and maybe this isn't part of this decision, but maybe it's a different policy decision, where we have a lot of rental homes, and, sometimes you can just drive down the street and you can tell where someone's moved out, and now their water's turned off, so now there's no service there, but it's still all sitting out there for days and days, and then our staff is going to pick it up. Are we charging a fee to that homeowner? Is there a way to hold them accountable?
There might not be anybody to charge.
No, there should be, because if
It goes to
somebody
code
owns that
enforcement.
property, that's a business to them, that's their expense to get it moved out and cleaned up.
I would say
In my
that's
opinion.
not included in the current structure of our fees. My question to the city attorney's office would be, maybe we can look at methods for doing that. So for example, maybe you don't get your water deposit back if you don't do such and such. Maybe there are other things that we can do with that.
Also, you can't, once it's turned off, when someone leaves, you get it turned back on again, the property owner is going to have to pay those fees. That's something that's been employed in a lot of the water districts that I've represented in the past, where if they leave, maybe they leave and they didn't pay their water bill, and it gets turned off. Well, to get it turned back on, you're going to have to pay the property owner, not the new renter, the property owner would have to pay those additional fees to clear.
Yeah, I think that's great input, and we'll get city attorney's office to kind of scrub that idea for us, do a little research, and we'll see what we can add to the new ordinance language there.
Many of those instances, it becomes a code enforcement issue. So we also have to keep in mind that when that happens, there has to be a time period that lapse, which means that content and material is going to sit on the property longer than we would like for it to.
And I think Glenn's bringing up a great point, and I think it also goes back to I bet you we can get some help from our city attorney's office here, because when we handle immediate nuisance stuff with a 10-day notice, we sometimes get ourselves in trouble from a public health standpoint. And so, again, I think that's an element of our ordinances that we need to polish up.
So I got another question. When we talk about these trash carts, are we talking about them furnishing this? Why are we doing that? I thought we talked about that and decided we weren't going to do that. What happens when they get stolen? What
Well, I'm gonna, let me just start with, the last time staff brought this up, I had 4 options and 5 opinions.
Right.
So we're back right at you for that reason.
I know, but I'm telling you,
Yeah.
that might work in Highland Park, it might work in some locations. If we can get people to abide by the rules of the service, we're gonna be doing pretty dadgum good. You're gonna have problems with theft of these carts, replacement of these carts. We're opening up a can of worms, I don't know what we wanna do.
At the co-op, my containers ended up everywhere.
Yeah, no, just let them buy their own, I mean, is that why these fees are this way?
It's included in the
Yeah, we
price,
don't
so.
know, come back without.
So
Give me some prices.
the service provider.
Let's go slow here.
Service provider provides the
Current, where it says, there's, carts are only included in 2 of these prices, okay? So the one that says current service is exactly what we're doing today. There's no change whatsoever. You like what you got, it stays the same, and that's the current service option. The one that says once a week with 1 trash cart per every household, that's the $14 one. Twice a week with 1 trash cart to every household, $18. If you don't like those 2, hey, that's fine with staff. My point is, if you don't like those 2, tell me which of the remaining 3 you do like, or tell us you want an option number 6, and we'll get it there for you. Yeah.
Well, let's all take a look at them and see what you want. For me, current service, the way it is, how many complaints do you have? Maybe the staff has more than I'm hearing, I haven't heard any. A lot?
Yes, sir. We
So,
get a
and what
ton
is the
of
main
complaints.
complaint?
Several. One of the complaints is the brush isn't picked up frequently
All
enough.
right, so
The other
again,
complaint is usually, in many instances, the customers put out 20 bags of trash and expect it to get picked up.
Right.
So when it doesn't, we get a call, hey, by the way, send some guys over to pick up that trash. So those are some of the complaints, okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm thinking this is a communication problem that we have with our customers, our residents, about what you can and can't do. They're unclear of it. It may be in the Hispanic community that we don't have it in Spanish for them, right? And they're just putting everybody's trash out. Another thing that I know happens, because it happened out at the restaurant, is people that live outside outside our incorporated city brings their trash in and just puts it out because they know that we've got trucks coming in. We need to stop that as well. There's some issues that need to be resolved. I'm not upset that you're doing what we've asked, is to give us some options. I'm going to ask the council to take a look at it and figure out where you want to go.
Yeah, and I'll say that I think, listen, we never thought we'd make a decision tonight, right? We're just trying to keep getting feedback from council on where y'all want to go here. I welcome Brady Simpson and Tim Royce to give us feedback as well. We're not having a decision-making on this page right now. One thing I heard clearly that staff will give you as feedback is some of these ordinance update options of, well, what if we tighten up this? What if we provided a penalty for that? And that sort of thing. I can tell you one of the things that cities traditionally chase, and it's just frustrating to chase, and it is worth fighting, and we're going to fight it, but the illegal dumping issue is a huge, huge problem. They used to dump in front of the environmental co-op. We chase them down dumping behind Walmart. We chase them down dumping all over the community. And you're absolutely right to say that people will come in from a rural area where you have to pay more to get your trash picked up, and they feel very free to go, just throw a couple of bags of trash out here, there, and yon. And it's a very frustrating thing. I can't issue a shoot-on-site order for illegal dumping or littering and that sort of thing. So we got to fight that, right? We really, really have to fight that. So I would just say, well, we'll work on it. The next time I bring this back, I will ask Greg and Glenn to work together on some of these ordinance issues so that you make sure you see it as a package. But I think you're really boiling down to a couple of simple things here. Do we live in a world where our city wants trash carts? That's either a yes or it's a no. Do we live in a world where our city wants once a week or twice a week? Man, I think I know what that answer is.
Yeah.
Okay, I really do. But if you want to go a different direction than what we're doing now, then you need to raise your hand. There are some simplicity things, so let me try to see if Glenn could give us an option 6 that goes like this. If our customer's complaint is, hey, I just want to be able to put out a little bit more, right? A lot of big families, maybe we could get some feedback from our provider if we went from 5 bags to 7 bags, or if we went da-da-da. If we get a little bit of feedback on that issue, then at least we'll be able to tell council what the feedback from our contractor is on that topic, okay?
I'll say in regards to the roll cards, the reason I have been in favor of roll cards before, and we talked about some ways that maybe we can get away from roll cards, but by doing other policy changes. So bags that get left out and right, they're heavy, that you have animals that come by and tear up the trash. You have the renters that leave the home, and then there's bulk sitting outside of the home. So, and we have a lot of rental homes, in District 3, and I think it'd be fair to say that there are rental homes in the other districts as well, at a high rate there. And so if there's a way through policies, right, the English-Spanish language, maybe there's a policy we can implement on Spanish language access that can help prevent some of these same issues, whether it's trash or a different service that will help make sure, our community members are educated, or whether it's something that they receive right when they sign up, depending on what we're sending out now. What is it that we can help deter for the trash to continue to sit out there, or those that, let's not punish, I hear what we're saying, let's not punish those that are trying to do right by making a decision based on those that choose to kind of test the limits there.
Hey, I would like to add something. So, number one, I'm glad staff and admin has given us so many options, because I gotta tell you, I continue to want to see trash carts in the discussion. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but I do want the numbers to stay on the page. There's some part of that evaluation process that says, man, I still just want to see it. I just want to look at that option. If it ends up being a horrible option, that's okay, but let me see the number, because there's a little bit of, to steal the phrase, crisp and clean there. It just comes with a little bit of a price.
Why don't we as council contact these communities that have started, that do that, and see what their feedback is on these carts. I bet you, I don't know, but I'm guessing that there's more municipalities started it and pulled back for different reasons. And so before we start going that way and we start charging these customers for things that we want, maybe we need to ask our citizens, what do they want? Can we put it on our Facebook page and just say, hey, we want some input?
I'm going to say I just lost a bet, because I bet Glenn Colwell that it would be Councilman Velasquez who asked me to do a survey, and you beat her to it. So yes, we definitely think that one of the next things here is to do a little Survey Monkey thing and to get it out there on Facebook and say, let's just get some feedback. Here's my warning about surveys, right? The warning on surveys is you never really get a clear-cut view of what citizens want, because you get only some citizens respond to your survey. Nevertheless, it is useful to go do a survey to get a sense as you can of what citizens want. So I'll work with Allison and Glenn on this, and we'll try to come back on that with you. I'm afraid that a lot of the experience with folks who went to carts takes the flavor of you're really giving more, quote, goodies to your citizens when you give them carts, and so people fall in love with goodies quickly. That's the problem with going to carts, is that if you then say to some of your citizens, no matter how many citizens might not like the carts, once you say to the citizens that here's this goodie that you get that's a cart, then it's really impossible to go forward and say, oh, we're going to take the carts away now. Well, you want to fight? You try to take away the cart you gave somebody. So, yeah, that's, and by the way, Greg makes a really great point over here, and I just want to say it for everybody who's remote. We have two goodies now. One goodie is that we have an unbalanced system where our commercial really helps support what's going on with residential. Because we have so many jobs in Terrell and commercial service in Terrell and businesses in Terrell, we have a very unusually large portion of our hauling that, just the cost of operating in the city is supported by our commercial base. That helps these residential rates stay low. The other one is the one that Greg's referring to over here, which is this issue of, hey, the goodie we're giving you is twice a week pickup. And you try to take that down to once a week, and you're going to get people who show up and they'll raise their hand in a very forceful way and say, wait a minute, I don't want to keep that trash at my house, in my garage, in my backyard, blah, blah, blah. We're giving a goodie now of twice a week pickup. You go to once a week pickup, you're going to get negative feedback about that. There's just no other way to say it.
Well, you know what, as I'm looking at these numbers, you can keep the current service, or you can have a cart and cut your service in half and still pay more money. Who's going to want to do that? I just don't know.
Ronnie, just explain to me what I've been doing wrong. I put a bag of trash out by the curb twice a week. My paper, my cardboard, the other recycled material goes into a roller that's mine, or that I stole previously.
That's off the record.
So I got this roller, and I go out to 429 with it. All right. So all my recycling goes out there. I put a bag at the most 2. Now, how many bags can I put out there if I rake leaves and stuff? Well, 7, 8, 9. Well, I just look at my neighbors and I go put one here, 2 there, 2 there, well, and it works out. So we're making this way too complicated.
I appreciate all the
I will say there's now a pastor, so let's not have confession time.
And really, that was why I was asking the question about how big the carts are, because if it's a bag that, someone as small as me can push, but there's enough trash in there, whether if it's a 1 week pickup, let's just say, we're not saying that's going to happen, right? But if it's a 1 week pickup, but it's all in there and it's all secure, and then you don't have trash, trash out in the street or the yard, and then it looks crisp and clean.
So when you go...
All right. There's too much air in the containers. You're putting a plastic bag full of stuff in a container, and you may get 3 in there efficiently, or 4. The containers get stolen. And we had an argument. How long has it been, Mr. Caldwell? You worked real hard on this, where the folks we had the contract with said, oh, you got to have this size container, this size container. So if the folks didn't have the right size container, they wouldn't pick it up.
But well, that's not quite the way that works, Mr. Councilman and Council, Mr. Mayor. When you go to polycarts, the process changes. The contractor, our contract provider, will purchase, or they actually have the trucks in tow. They have type vehicles that will go out, drive up to the container, and it dumps it. So they don't manually dump these. That process completely changes. So it makes them more proficient, more efficient, and they can move more product.
Anything outside of that container is going to be left there.
Potentially.
No, they're not going to get out of it. They're not. That's why they're able to quote the rates that they do, is because it's all done with the truck.
Right.
And they're gonna pick it up, done, and they're moving down the road. They're not
Right.
gonna stop.
And people gonna lose their jobs too, because instead of
Well,
having
hey,
2 or
you know
3
what?
guys on
I
that
have
truck,
to
you got
call,
one.
it's 6:30, we've got food back there.
Well, you
and
hungry?
we need to recess.
Can I get you to take formal action on the EDC?
It's at 7 o'clock.
It's at 7, we will have 7.
I guess we'll do the executive session.
Yes, we're gonna have to, well, actually, what I was gonna do is go into executive session and then,
You want to do it now?
well,
We
got
don't
30
have
minutes.
to, it's on the 7 o'clock agenda.
Yeah.